Well, hey everyone, and thank you so much for joining today. My name is Bobby Schreiber. I'm our Director of Sales Engineering from Bloomfire, and really excited to give you a chance to see our platform. We are a knowledge and engagement platform and want to walk you through some of the ways that we're serving our insights customers. We are going to be monitoring the chat during this session, so if you have any questions, please feel free to type those in, and we'll make sure to get your response there so that we can see how this resonates with you. One of the things that we look at as we start to go into our knowledge engagement platform is some of the challenges that our customers are facing. They are struggling to find that single source of truth for their customer insights. They're looking for a really powerful search approach, something that everyone can truly come in here and access and be effective with. And they want to eliminate that redundancy, no more duplicated research, fewer redundant questions, and really get everything streamlined so that we can get people the content they need to do their jobs and also track and analyze overall engagement. So with our solution, what we've done is we've created a really great search experience to really get those users access to what they need as quickly as possible. So I may have just joined our research and insights team, and I'm getting ready to start my first project on the topic of, let's say, artificial intelligence. But before I begin my work, I want to understand everything that we already have on that topic, just so I don't step on anyone's toes or duplicate something that's already been done. So I can come in here and type out exactly what it is that I want, in this case, artificial intelligence, and we'll get that same kind of autocomplete that you may experience in something like Google, which is intentional because we want to mirror existing platforms that users may be familiar with in their personal lives in order to make this more approachable and ensure that there's not a really steep curve for people to be effective in using it. And in this case, we get a lot of content back. This is a pretty broad topic. So 184 total matches have been returned, but Bloomfire is making sense of that by applying a relevancy score to each piece of content. So we can ensure that the most important or most relevant content is the first thing that we see, while still giving that individual an opportunity to focus on more popular content or something that's been published or updated more recently. And we see that playing out really well in this particular example, where I have artificial intelligence and customer communications, or the next digital frontier. I'm even bringing in content from my external vendors, in this case, Kantar Monitor Gateway, to ensure that this really is a one-stop shop and that I don't just focus on my primary research that we've run ourselves, but also get access to that vendor research and make sure that's all brought into that one place, furthering that single source of truth approach so that I don't have to go and continue to scrape other areas to see what else there may be. Now, we've got all these results coming back because of our deep indexing search, which means that we can read every word and character within the documentation, whether that is a text-based asset, a PDF, a PowerPoint presentation, Excel files. We'll even take audio and video files and automatically transcribe those so the spoken word is searched just like written text. And we can see that here in this example, we're giving you the search references, which is an indication as to where we found a match within this content. Is it in the title, the description, the document body? All of this is helping to give that individual a little bit more context before they even open an asset, just so they can see how relevant this may be to what it is they're looking for. And another important thing to note is that while we're picking up on artificial intelligence, which is what I searched for, it's also capturing mentions of AI. And the reason that's happening here is because we have a built-in synonym dictionary that you can customize and tailor to your needs. So that's going to map to your industry jargon, your internal jargon, those acronyms that are important to you. Anything that we want to include here to ensure this truly is a very comprehensive search and gets everything that may be of relevance here, and we don't have anything that's going to be left off. Now, I could certainly continue to look at this content and figure out what we have that's available and what could be interesting to me. But eventually, I may reach a point where I need to refine my search further. My search itself is not just going to be on artificial intelligence, but I really want to focus on its impact on the consumer. So rather than coming up and drafting a brand new query to address that, I can lean on these fully customizable filters that live over here on the left-hand side. Now, this will either mirror an existing taxonomy that's working well for you today, or it's something that we can help you to develop as you go through the implementation and onboarding process. But what this does is it now gives me this opportunity to select any and every filter that I find relevant in order to walk my way into something more specific. So I may say I want to focus on primary research, and we'll look at futures research and our impact on the consumer. And with 3 clicks of the mouse, I go from 180 plus pieces of content down to just 2. And it feels very similar as if I was shopping online. We're all quite familiar with what that left rail filter experience is like. So this is how we're trying to give users an opportunity to guide themselves into the content in a way that makes sense to them, whether that is keyword-based, whether that is filter-based, or if you're combining the two like we've done here. Now, when we open this up and we look at an individual post, then we get a chance to see what Bloomfire is doing to structure content. Now, the bulk of this, the real meat of this post, is a 70-page PDF. And I can view that directly in line here. I'm not having to download this file. There's no conversions that are required. I'm getting a really great viewing experience. And this has been delivered as a valid result because, again, every word and character within this document was indexed and searched along with all of the supporting text. And I think this supporting text is a really important feature because we don't always just want to be guiding people to dense documentation. Our research is important, but we want to make that more accessible so that we can get marketing and sales and research and development and all these other parts of the organization interested in our work and using that in their work. So what this author has done is made use of some of the additional functions from Bloomfire to give us things like a brief description of the content. They've outlined the intended core audience here so we can kind of understand how we got to this point and what we were trying to achieve. And they've even stripped out some of the key insights so that if one of those users from another department were coming in here, they have some little chewable nuggets, some things that they can take with them and immediately apply to their work, or at the very least get a deeper understanding as to what else they may learn if they were to continue their journey and read into this PDF. Now, one of the other elements that I mentioned at the top of the call is that we are a knowledge engagement platform. And what we mean by that is that we're looking to be a place that people can come and actively participate and be a part of this process as opposed to just passively consuming content. We represent some of these engagement opportunities over here on the left-hand side. Simple things such as liking of content, where now we're going to mirror that social media experience. But it lets Sam know as the author that we really appreciate the work that she's put in here. And it also shows up when we look at our analytics and reporting so that those that are administrators have a better understanding as to what is really resonating with their audience and where there's some room for opportunity to improve. I may bookmark this asset because, again, I'm that new user. I'm just trying to get this project off the ground. So I want to be able to refer to this periodically. So I have that in my back pocket now. I may have other colleagues that could be interested in this, or maybe I got off a call with a colleague and this was a topic they were trying to dig into themselves. Add as many recipients as I'd like, custom tailor a message here. And when I share this over, they'll be able to get both an in-platform notification, but also an email notification, because as much as I would like everyone to keep Bloomfire open all the time, I know that's just not going to be the reality. So that email will give them one-click opportunity to be driven directly over to this post, see all this great content, and also potentially come down to this threaded comments section. This is really powerful as well because this is an area that we can see clarifying questions that may have been asked. We can comment about how we may have used this research ourselves, interact with other colleagues, @mention people to bring them into the conversation. All of this is really powerful information, and it's probably happening around your research today already. It's just happening in disparate systems. It's the Slack messages or Microsoft Team messages or email chains where those thoughtful questions get asked and answered, but unfortunately others don't get the benefit of learning from that engagement. So when that's actually appended directly to this asset, we create a much more comprehensive view of everything that could be relevant to those end users. And this is another piece that's just ensuring that when I'm coming in here to consume this, I have all the information that I need to be effective here. I can see the storytelling that went around this, so this can be merchandised and marketed to the rest of the organization. I can understand how others may have used this, and I feel more confident in applying this to my own work because I have that extra context. Now, if we were to come back out here and look in the main area, as I continue on this project, I may reach a point where I decide I need to start aggregating all of my information together here. I want to make sure that it's all in one place. So what Bloomfire has done to address that is created a concept that we call customizable feeds. A feed is just really a grouping of content. All of this down below is essentially a feed of the entire community. But if I come down here to this feed that I've already started, I'll show you how you can pull one of these together. A customizable feed is a chance for me to pre-filter based on a set of parameters that I define. So I can create a feed for this AI project and choose what are the different elements that I want to include. Now, in my case, my focus is on the consumer, so I definitely want that in there. I love the Kantar content that I've been getting and seeing, so I want to make sure that's included. And I'm looking for any mentions here of artificial intelligence or automation. So those are some of the key search terms that I want to be able to focus on. And then finally, I know that this is a project that has a lot of interest in the organization, so I'm going to choose to actually share this feed with others so they can decide if they want to subscribe to this feed and see the same views that I do. The result when I save this is that now I have this really unique view that is focused just on that AI-related material based on those parameters I laid out. And what's even greater about this is that it effectively becomes a vacuum of sorts, meaning as new content is created that matches with those elements that I've laid out, it's going to be brought into this feed and I'll immediately have access to it. So I'm not having to continually seek out, is there something new that I may have missed or something else that I want to bring in here? I'm going to be able to absorb all that into this one place and have one centralized area that I can keep all those assets and be able to focus on the needs that I have for this project. So that is great about getting me situated with this project, but what happens when I hit a roadblock, when I need to reach out to a colleague or a peer or a subject matter expert for some advice or some expertise? Bloomfire wanted to address that as well so that we could be a place not just to come to look for information, but also a place to ask questions and seek out answers. And what we've done to address that is given you a formal question and answer engine that you can lean on so that as a user, I can come in here and choose to ask any question that I would like. So maybe out of curiosity, I just want to know, has anyone started research on 5G technology? Whatever the question is, as we type this out, before I even get the chance to publish it, the system's going to first check to see, has this already been asked and answered? Do we have something else that we can learn from here? This is really important in cutting down on those redundant questions and just giving that user the chance to validate that their question is unique before they actually move forward with publishing it. And I can see some really great things down below here. Asking about current research predicting the impact of 5G on our product lines. That also has an accepted answer, a visual indicator to me that not only has someone responded here, but we feel like that's a very appropriate answer. So something that should build more confidence in me to use that. But also some interesting content that I might not have looked at yet, preparing for 5G connectivity in the home. That may be something else that I want to take a closer look at. This user now can decide, do I want to take a closer look here at this previous question that was asked and answered, see how it was responded to, and maybe follow down the track of what my colleague was pointing me towards? Or do I feel like my question was unique enough that I want to simply move forward with publishing it? And if I do choose to publish it, we can't just have this go into a dark space and have no one be aware of it. So what happens on the back end is we're going to trigger notifications. So there is that awareness, and that those subject matter experts and those individuals that can assist are aware that, hey, I raised my hand and I could use some assistance. Those notifications will go out in the form of email, but you can also tie this system in with your Microsoft Teams or with your Slack environments, places that we know people spend a lot of their day, and ensure that they're going to see that notification there and be driven back to Bloomfire if they do have the answer or want to be able to help this person out. So all of that as an end user is really powerful and is trying to just get me a great search experience that is familiar and intuitive, point me directly to the content that I'm looking for without me having to think too hard about how it may have been titled, tagged, or where it was stored, and also giving me that opportunity to have engagement, whether that is engaging on content that already exists, asking my own question and getting some feedback from my colleagues, or any combination thereof. Now, the next phase to think about, though, is what happens when I need to author content? Maybe I've got some new research and I want to get that live, or maybe there's a situation that I want to be able to quickly pull up and get in front of my colleagues. We want to make sure that we have a really great ease of use and personalized experience for that as well. So for those users that have the right role, we do have 5 user roles within Bloomfire. Those that do have authorship rights will be able to come in here and have this add contribution button and get a chance to come in and create a post. Now, this is what our post building interface looks like. It's very clean by intention. You'll put your title at the top, follow with a description. And then if you'd like, you could build out an entire post just using Bloomfire's suite of editing options. Basically, if you can edit a Word document, you can build a Bloomfire post directly in this environment. But we know that oftentimes our content is being created elsewhere, and what we're wanting to do is actually bring that in to Bloomfire as a different file format. So I may use our quick insert and choose to upload a file in order to do that. Now, if you have other file storage systems that you're using, we integrate with those so that you can easily pull that content in and have a really nice experience in doing so. I'm going to grab something here off of my hard drive just to make this a little bit easier. And what we can see here is that we're pulling in a PDF in this particular example, but we accept over 50 different file types in their native format. And the thought behind that is that I don't want you to have to convert your files or ready them for Bloomfire in order to get them uploaded. Simply grab them the way they live today, and you'll be able to get them pulled in and rendered. Now, I'm going to paste in my title. You saw that that was processing the content there just a moment ago. And what was happening is that we actually wanted to make sure that we can render that correctly, but also complete that deep indexing process so that when we do move forward with publishing this, there's not any delay in getting that live, and I can ensure that we very quickly get that in front of our colleagues and everyone else can access this great information. Now, I'm going to paste in some of the study results that I have here, but this is where if I wanted to bold this and change the font of it or make any other kind of modifications, it's very easy for you to make those edits so that you can have this formatted in a way that really resonates with your audience. I think that everybody can agree that having this kind of information is really powerful and can be effective. But one of the things that I do sometimes hear is, you know what, that's great, but it's hard for me to find the time to add all of that. I really just need to get the content itself published live. And we can certainly appreciate that. So one of the things that we've done is we wanted to build in some additional automation for you. One of the ways that we do that is just through this auto summarization. And with this, I can either generate a 2-sentence description or a 6-sentence body summary that will help me to speed up this process and ensure that I've got really great content on screen. What's happening behind the scenes here is our algorithm is actually extracting complete sentences from the document that I've uploaded. So we're not making all of this up. It's not a bunch of crazy AI that's happening here, but rather extracting meaningful sentences, giving you a good description, but then also allowing me to make further edits or adjustments if I see fit. At this point, I could move forward with simply publishing this post and it would go live without any trouble, and others could find their way to this through that simple keyword search. But there are a few thoughtful changes that I may want to address underneath the settings area just to make sure I have this represented as best I possibly can. Certainly could update the thumbnail image to make something more attractive there, but the big area that I like to focus on is coming down to the categories. Now, if you recall from our search example, what we were doing with the categories was using them as filters so that I could walk my way into something more specific. And what I'm seeing here now as an author are all the different categories that the owner of my community have made available to me. And the nice thing about this is we have this multi-select functionality. I can select any and every option that I think is going to be relevant here. And that's a really big departure from the way that a lot of older systems have functioned, where you have one file, so it must live in one folder, and that's really it. But now we can instead respect the fact that this needs to be more flexible. It's referenced in a number of different areas and has value in a number of different areas. So I can now represent it as such and ensure that not only is this a better representation of the content, but I'm also increasing the likelihood that my colleagues and peers can find their way to this material because it doesn't just live in one space anymore. It lives in all these spaces simultaneously, but I still maintain it as an individual asset. Now, other things that we can consider under here, maybe I have other contributors that I want to add so they have authorship rights over this content and can control it as well. Maybe this is some really sensitive content, so I want to put some download controls on this and make sure that no one can take a copy of this home with them. Other things that we can use in the moment to determine how we want this content to be set up. But really, at the end of the day, I think that this looks like a good post. We can choose to move forward with publishing this. It goes live immediately. Once again, those notifications are going out so that there's awareness, and if others may be interested in this content, they can be notified. And that is how simple it is to get content live and in front of everyone else in the organization that's using this system. Now, the final thing that I wanted to kind of look at as we wrap this up today is, what is this like if you are the administrator of the system? The last thing that we want to do is create something that's going to be a big technological burden for you or something that's really cumbersome, because most of the time I'm talking to customers that have a day job and they're just looking to stand up a knowledge engagement platform alongside that. So what we want to do is make sure that we empower you to be effective in keeping this environment up to date and aligned with where your business is heading, knowing that businesses can change quite drastically, especially in the world that we live in today. So let's take those categories. We spent a lot of time talking about that. We're going to give you, as the owner of this community, the opportunity to come in here and modify your own category structure with just a few simple clicks. This is a drag and drop interface. So if I need to add in new categories, remove categories, rename categories, as your needs change, this can change with you. So this gives you that ability to scale and grow and adapt and do so without any hard coding. There's no IT team involvement. There's no tickets that you need to file with Bloomfire. This is all meant to be very self-serve. And where we've seen this be really effective is there are a number of our customers. There's a large brand based out of Chicago that went through a merger acquisition situation at one point, and it caused them to have a big mix up of their taxonomy. But they came in here and made these adjustments, massaged a few things, and were able to accommodate all that new content. And they never had to take their system offline. They didn't disrupt their end users. The IT team could continue doing all the things that they were focused on and not have to worry about this element because we made that so easy for them to control. Another thing that's really powerful is being able to be proactive about pushing content out. Now, I've talked a lot about notifications because that is important, but those are just kind of an automated thing where they send out when new content is created. But through settings like our newsletter, what you can do is target specific groups of individuals with information that could be relevant to them, just to ensure that they're getting that in front of them and that we don't have any missed opportunities to share really meaningful content. This is just an example of one that I was working on. And again, we're trying to give you a very simple type of interface to build this out. I'm going to call it what you may have missed. We'll give it a subject that could be easily identified in someone's inbox. And then I can choose who are those recipients for this. Now, this could be a specific group within my community, like my leadership team, or I could even upload a custom email list. And in any instance, what that's going to do is just ensure that I'm targeting the right people with the right content. I can come down here to choose what content I want to add in. So maybe we'll add in that new study. We may want to put in some other reports. All of this great information we can easily be able to incorporate here so that we have the right material to deliver in this newsletter. And then finally, put some little customization on that. Maybe we're doing some hiring, so I want to call that out and make sure that we're reminding people that they should be asking if there's anybody in their network that wants to join the organization. I'm going to talk about some of the new content that we have out this week, or some of the great research and why I want to be sharing that, so there's that additional context to go along with the information itself. And maybe even leave it with a call to action at the end. What else do you want to see? How else can we add value here? Ultimately, that's all that it takes to build out one of these newsletters, and then I can preview it, send a test email to myself before I send it to the whole organization, schedule it in advance, or send it right away. Just more powerful ways to connect all the dots and get the right content in front of the right people. But the final thing to look at is what happens when we get down to the outputs, meaning what can I learn about what's happening within this environment? If this is truly living and breathing and has a lot of great activity within it, I think that it's important to be able to analyze that. So what we want to do here is bring you into our analytics and our reporting. Analytics is what we have on screen right now, and it's very visual in nature. What we can see is we're going to default to the most recent 30 days, but allow you to tie that back to last week or custom tailor the date range depending on what view you'd like to see. I personally use this to really understand, is my community really healthy right now? Are things headed in the right direction? So to that end, we're going to first focus on overall activity that's occurred. 2 new contributions have come in. We're just getting out of the holidays, not a big surprise there. We're just shy of 200 total views. Now, naturally, I may wonder, well, what has my team been looking at? What are they focused on? So we'll follow with these top posts. And we base that not just on the views, but we do take into account that engagement that we looked at previously, the likes, the comments. All of that has a lot of value and will help to influence what we consider to be a top post. We'll highlight the top questions that are here. This may be identifying a knowledge gap where someone has asked about some information and they're right, I don't have anything on that topic, so maybe now I want to go and get some new information added. It could instead also just be referencing some frequently asked questions or some things that the team may be struggling with or having some issues with. Simply having that awareness and understanding what is top of mind, though, I think is a really powerful component, and is just going to arm those administrators with more data they can use to make sure they're delivering the best experience they possibly can. Now, it doesn't matter how great any software is. If the team doesn't use it, the whole initiative is going to fall apart. So when we come down here and we look at these browsing and engaged users, we're just trying to make sure that we're keeping the adoption levels where you want them to be. So having this always on view where we can understand if we're at the right percentage or we have the right levels of interaction is really powerful. And if we feel like these numbers start to slip or fall away from where we really want them to be, I may go right back to that newsletter functionality, draft one that focuses on some of this top content, and use that to try to draw people back in so they can be reminded of why they should be in Bloomfire, what they can learn here, and all the great information that's going to be available in the system. We wrap it up in this view by giving you some playful gamification here, just being able to see how users rank against their peers in consuming content or actually producing content, and just a few other variables that just make sure that you have a good understanding of what's happening around that environment. Sometimes that's just not enough, though, and we need to go deeper. We want to understand audit trails or consumption patterns or understand where we're really moving the needle. For that, we may turn to our advanced reporting. We'll take away the visuals in this view, but we can still get access to all the great data and start to break that down in different ways. We're looking right now at contributions most viewed, which is very analogous to the top post we just saw. And now this is still based over that same 30-day period. But instead, what we can see differently here is the total number of views that each asset's received, as well as by how many unique viewers. So I can take this vehicle readiness index post and see 12 views from 2 unique viewers. Well, who was it that was looking at this? Now I have that audit trail. Here's who actually accessed this, timestamped down to the second as to when they accessed it. They can include their job title as well. That's part of building out your profile, is being able to add that kind of information in. I think that's powerful because then I can recognize when key stakeholders from other parts of the organization may be involved in certain work. And what we're oftentimes trying to do is get ourselves out of a reactive state where I'm waiting for someone to ask me for research or any information into a more proactive state where I can anticipate what the next move may be and be able to deliver some really great and meaningful content to those users. That is kind of a stretch goal for some organizations based on where you may be at. But once you're armed with this kind of data, then you start to be able to take those big leaps and really get into more of that proactive state. The final thing this view is showing me here is just what action the user took. Most people are just viewing this content, but here we've got a download, or there could have been a comment or a bookmark. All of that action gets tracked as well, just so that you understand more about what's happening around the content. Now, if Taylor was a really big player, let's say in a part of the organization that I'm trying to better serve, I may want to see what else is this user interested in. And for that, we can come to the member section and now dig into everything that this particular member has engaged with. So here's everything that Taylor's been focused on the last 30 days. And this is another way that I can start to slice and dice in different views, focusing on the content and who is touching that, or on the individual and what they may be interested in. We even go so far as to expose the queries themselves that are being run. Now, this is anonymized data, so I don't necessarily know who ran what, but it is helpful for me to see, is what people are searching for aligning with what they're actually accessing? Do I see any new acronyms or words that are being used in here that I might want to bring into my synonym dictionary? Do I feel like I need to update any categories? Unless you have access to this kind of information, it's really hard for you to make those decisions confidently. So when we provide you this kind of extra info, you start to be empowered to make decisions based on the data that you're seeing. Data-driven decisions are so huge in any organization. And this is just getting you that step closer so that you can be much more effective in communicating the right content to the right people. As an administrator, we just want to make this easy for you. So we'll couple all of this with a class leading onboarding and implementation process, a dedicated client success manager, and wonderful support so that you can be empowered throughout the entire engagement and truly be a partner of Bloomfire rather than just having us as a vendor. That's really what I wanted to cover off for you today, but look forward to answering other questions you may have and hope that this was really valuable for you. So thank you so much.